He has also said that a Palestinian state would be a national suicide for Israel. Meanwhile, China's premier of the State Council, Qiang, has strongly criticized the rise of protectionist trade measures, warning that tariff hikes and other barriers are adversely affecting the global economy. He's also called for international cooperation for economic stability and inclusive globalization. Beyond the general debate, the corridors of the UN have been busy with side meetings and closed-door diplomacy. As the United Nations General Assembly continues, leaders are using every opportunity to shape global agendas and push national priorities. To help us understand all of these developments, I'm being joined by my colleague Thomas Portes, who is currently in New York City. We had the opportunity to catch up with him earlier as well. Thomas, the big headline today is that Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, and his address to the UNGA. What stood out to you from that speech, and what developments have followed since?
You join us here live, of course, from New York in front of the United Nations General Assembly headquarters, where this morning Israeli Prime Minister delivered a defiant address, but not before over 100 diplomats walked out in solidarity with the Palestinian cause. Of course, a huge gesture, which in fact disrupted the start of his speech, which he glared at as they walked out. But of course, this did not stop Benjamin Netanyahu in his rhetoric that Israel will, quote unquote, finish the job in the Gaza Strip of eliminating Hamas, a hugely controversial war that has sparked international outcry throughout the international community. This week, of course, started with the recognition of a Palestinian state from that of the United Kingdom, France, and other former Israeli allies. He said that this recognition, he claimed that for Hamas, quote unquote, murdering Jews pays off. That are his words. He used theatrics to demonstrate this. He gave a quiz, he said a pop quiz. He held up a board, which he has done previously in the United Nations, and said and claimed that Hamas continues to be a threat to everyone, Israel included, the United States included, and that Iran and the Houthis and Hezbollah all are still and continue to threaten Israel and American security, and so Israeli actions are in fact justified. As part of Israel's public diplomatic push, his UN label pin included this QN code here, linking to a filmed dramatization of the October the 7th attacks. And of course, this is being viewed as one of the most diplomatically isolating episodes for Israel in years. Now, many experts have labeled this a genocide. Of course, the UN has not done that as of yet. However, many commissions and bodies have. However, this can be seen as a huge development and will, of course, be in the history books for sure.
Absolutely. Additionally, China also took to the floor earlier as well. What key message was Beijing trying to send through its remarks?
Yes, indeed, of course. China, a huge player, followed Pakistan Shehbaz Sharif, who also spoke today. Chinese Premier Li Qiang spoke in the absence of Chinese President Xi Jinping and addressed the assembly and presented China as a cooperative global actor, of course, pushing for China as the next world superpower. He expressed confidence in China's ability to sustain economic growth amid, of course, this tariff and trade war. China, of course, has solidified itself as the global manufacturing superpower, tech superpower, and it also criticized unilateral and protectionist trade measures, of course, an indirect hit at Donald Trump's tariff policy. He called them impotence to global economic progress. And he also emphasized the need for international cooperation on climate development, something which Donald Trump slammed on Tuesday, and global stability. Now, of course, unilateralism seems to be a theme under Donald Trump. However, this push for a multilateral world remains here, but but the future of the UN, of course, hangs in the balance. Does it still have the strength that it used to? Those are the questions that we still need to ask.
Beyond the general debate itself, what else, in fact, has been happening around the United Nations today in terms of side meetings, a closed-door diplomacy or negotiations?
Now, another major development outside of the General Assembly the UN Security Council is weighing on Iran's sanctions, on a proposal from Russia and China to delay these snapback sanctions. The reimpositions of sanctions on Iran, which were agreed in 2015, tied to its nuclear program. Of course, their nuclear program has been subject to not only a war, but of course, huge tensions within the region and the Western world, and particularly the United States. Western countries, including Britain, Germany and France, oppose the delay and argue that the snapback mechanisms should go immediately back into effect. And of course, we will continue to bring you that decision as soon as we get it. But a huge, significant UN Security Council vote occurring today.
Thomas, we're now heading into the penultimate day of this year's General Assembly. How has today, in fact, shaped the mood, and how does the week feel overall from your perspective on the ground?
Well, yes, of course. So far, the United Nations General Assembly has been as expected. Donald Trump opened the week with a speech to remember, slamming the body, claiming to have stopped 7 wars itself, critiquing it for not keeping peace. And of course, in the year of 2025, when the Gaza humanitarian crisis is at the front of everybody's minds here, how can one argue? Of course, he said he himself stopped 7 wars. These flurry from combat, border skirmishes to out-and-out conflicts like the India-Pakistan war, many of which of Donald Trump's claims are disputed. But what is not disputed is that the United Nations seems to be in crisis. Of course, there is a look to the future of how unilateralism can move forward, how the world can join together and bring peace and prosperity, which is why this organization was founded in the first place for. And now in a polarizing world, which seems to be moving further and further apart, with the speeches and the likes of Benjamin Netanyahu getting up on that podium today and certainly not backing down in his rhetoric, that goes to show for you how much of the geopolitical world stands today. Okay. Noddies.
All right. That was, of course, my colleague Thomas reporting